Hello and welcome. My name is Trismegistus, and today we're going to be reading through and speculating about the latest Factorio Friday Facts. Friday Facts number 383, Superforce Building, posted by Kovrix and Clonan. Hello, welcome, take a seat. Update from last time. The tile building animation showcased in the previous Friday Facts is now integrated in the game, and this is how it looks. So just showing a video of the tile building in operation. There's this blueprint here. This is obviously the new blueprint system. We can see the wheelie lines with the distortion effect. And then it builds it out from the main platform and fills in the blueprint, essentially. I think last time I made a note that the kind of sort of structural part of this looked a bit funny. And I think what it was, it might have been that it didn't really have any texture on it. Because now when it appears to have a bit more texture on it, it's not fully there yet, I don't think, and they do note this below, but it feels a bit more like it is part of this platform now. The comment they make at the bottom is, of course, being in the engine doesn't mean it's completely done. It is still quite work in progress, and we have things we would like to improve with it, but showing a bit of progress week by week is also part of the fun. It looks great. I mean, the new platform stuff I mentioned before, I really like the style of it. It looks like a sort of a Factorio version of, sort of a steampunky, cyberpunky cross thing, which is really good. I do all love all this structure they put on the platform itself. It just looks really awesome. And yeah, if this is how it's going to work, I mean, I'm more than happy. I said when they mentioned this building thing that I wouldn't actually mind if it just all appeared, but yeah, this does look awesome. Superforce Building by Kovrix. In the recent Friday Facts 380, we talked about the possibility of building ghost entities on the top of ghost tiles, so you don't have to wait until landfill or space platform tiles are finished to build on top of them. This is nice, but this obviously was just preparation for the main feature we all missed so much, the Superforced Building. Okay, and we got a nice little video taken from the game, and what they're showing off is that where previously you had sort of control click and shift click, there's now control shift click. So all three together sort of thing gives you this Superforce building. And what is Superforce building? It's essentially laying in this case landfill, but also applies for space platforms, underneath the thing you're trying to build. Just a little note on that. I actually commented on, I deleted it out of the edit, but I commented on one of the previous Friday Facts that it looked like the entities had been built on top of water. And I edited it out of the video because I realised I was being a bit silly. But this here, if you look at this is normal landfill underneath in fact, let's try and zoom in a bit more. This is normal landfill, the brown stuff underneath these reactors. And it looked like these had just been built on water. And clearly what's happened is that's been built with the Superforce building, because the landfill is perfectly matched underneath the tiles, which is why you can't see it, basically. And that's what I realised my error I'd made, that when you did have landfill perfectly matched underneath an object, it just doesn't show the landfill. There's no edge around it, although there is, when you're in the game, because it just does it graphically. And that's what I thought, these were just being allowed to be built on water. They'd be like a special concrete that you could just build things automatically. But it looks like that kind of was a thing, but it's Superforce building. So where you can just literally stamp the blueprint down and it'll automatically fill in the blueprint it'll automatically fill in the landfill that you need. In the beginning, we had just the normal way to build blueprints, and anything in the way blocked the blueprint from being built. Soon after, we realised that we need an automated way to get rid of all the trees, rocks and cliffs in the way. So we added the forced build mode, which is the shift click by default, to do that. Since that time, it happened frequently here and there that we felt it still wasn't enough. Space platform building was the last push where we just couldn't ignore this anymore and had to implement it. With landfill, it is an occasional problem as water is not everywhere, but with the space platform building, it is always a problem. So what they're referring to there is that this Superforce building, where you can do the shift, control, click, and it puts the landfill underneath. With the landfill, it wasn't such a problem. As you can see, I mean, it's sort of represented here in that you have got part of the land is already there, so you're only filling in a bit of water. And obviously if you were stamping down on all water, then it becomes more painful. But with the space platform, the whole point is there is no existing land, nothing there, so it has to build every single thing that you want to build on top of. And that therefore means that this issue of not being able to just build a blueprint unless there was something there in the first place was just too glaring an issue, and they had to fix it. The video they're showing is essentially just placing in these crushers, and the player is basically, if you notice when the blueprint comes across, or it is a blueprint I think, or copy and paste maybe, it doesn't have any platform underneath it, so it's literally just the items. They slightly misalign it, but then when they put down, so it's got these inserters are on the existing platform, but the rest of it just blueprints it and puts underneath where the new bits of space platform need to be built, perfectly matched underneath the items. We also see the very top one, there is a crusher in stock, and it puts that in as well. I think on Reddit, they sort of mentioned there's maybe an animation coming for this, or at least some special representation, where at the moment it just looks like it's being plopped down by hand. I might have got the wrong end of the stick with that. There may not be anything new or special coming, but essentially you see it sort of plops into place as if you'd hand placed it. So that might be the solution there. Once we already had the superforced building mode, it was natural to include the other properties of it. The mindset behind superforced building is that you want to force the full blueprint no matter what, like building rails through a solar field, so this is how we made it behave. Next little video has the caption, "Superforced building will mark anything in the way for deconstruction." And we just literally see there is a solar field here, and they use superforced builds, so Control Shift clicks, the straight rail blueprint over the top, and it marks all of the other items for deconstruction that are underneath the blueprint. It's a really nice little quality of life change, I think. At the moment, if these were trees and rocks, then you would hold the shift click and it would put them down. But for items, what it would do is it would only put them down. So this little bit of rail here would probably be built. And I mean, there might be a power pole or something that would be built. But essentially, the other items just wouldn't be built. The shift click would let you put the free areas of the blueprint down, but it wouldn't put the rest down. And the point here is you're saying, right, what I want in preference is the rail rather than the solar. So you shift control click and it forces that in by deleting the items underneath. Manual superforced building. We were only speaking about blueprints up to this point, but once the superforced building worked its way into our muscle memory, we started to try to use it when building entities manually. It is similar to how you can build ghosts manually with the shift modifier and get rid of trees in the way automatically. So we added the superforced building as a direct build shortcut, not just a specialised blueprint building modifier. So I'll be honest, the description there isn't quite as clear as the illustration is. Essentially what they're saying is that what you couldn't do previously, which is this here and here, is that if there was an entity in the way, so in this case the laser, and you wanted to build the wall on top of it, you would need to delete it either manually or through a deconstruction planner before it would let you put the ghosts down for the wall. Whereas now you can just hold shift, do the superforced building and place them over top, and it marks this automatically for deconstruction. Again, we're really in this territory of lovely quality of life features that just make things ever so slightly easier and slightly more intuitive to do. I do really like this entity, this icon here. I don't think, where is it? Zoom that in. It's a little angry ghost. It's just a nice little touch, of a furious ghost. It just tickled me. Belt interaction. Once we got used to this, there was a pattern that started to emerge. We would superforce build over belts and then have to manually fix them right after. Video just illustrating that. They're superforce building a substation where the belts are, and it's, replacing them, but then they're having to go in and manually fix the belts, put the undergrounds on. And it just says on here, if you're a regular reader, you know that the word manually is always an indication of change. And here we see the end result in this video. Superforce building over belts automatically places undergrounds. And they just give a whole series of use cases for doing this. And basically, so here we've got a rail being added over replacing the belts. We've got a roboport going over the top, being inserted in the belts. We've got radar being inserted into the belts. We've got some defenses, some lasers and walls. We then got belts being done over the top of belts. That's going to be really, really useful. And pipes, if you use overground pipes or where you've got intermingling undergrounds, and then to finish it off, we've got just a little light. But yeah, this is going to be such a nice little quality of life feature. Makes it way, way easier, particularly things like that where you're putting in beacons or rail or all this. You'd have to do all this manually. It looks like you're probably going to end up filling your inventory up. We're rubbish as well normally. But we've got that new feature to automatically trash stuff that you don't want. Really nice. Really, really nice, as per usual. Mining Landfill by Clonan. Landfill has always been a little bit tricky. As it stands, it kind of breaks a fundamental symmetry in the base building, in that everything you build can be unbuilt, any mistake erased without judgment. But with Landfill, one wrong click and it's there forever. It has long been on our wish list to make mining landfill work, but the code and logic around tile building and mining were not set up effectively for it. One major problem is that tile placement and removal would instantly and uncompromisingly destroy or kill anything that was colliding with it when it was changed. Additionally, mining landfill is a specific case, but making the system generalized for all combinations of placing and mining tiles with varying collision masks, for example a placeable water mod, would involve touching a lot of systems: building, mining, blueprints, upgrades, deconstruction. With the Superforce building, the problem of no way back when building landfill was even more dangerous and liable to misclicks. So we knew we had to make mining landfill happen. Through hard work and dedication, Roman was able to clean up all the tile building and mining code, handle all the cases of collisions between entities and tiles, and make it work in a really nice and intuitive way. You can even see some evidence of the groundwork for this back in the 1.1.50 release from December 2021. Where we added the tile prototype, check, collision with entities, property. And we got a nice little video demonstrating this. They actually point it out in the comment, but this is initially being manually removed. Then it uses deconstruction planner to remove the other corner, and a deconstruction planner to mine out the rest. And notice that what happens with the player. So basically the player, because it's not a removable entity, it's left with this here. And they've obviously set some kind of distance in the code so that it's, an area around the player that it doesn't deconstruct. I guess in case you were sort of stood on the edge of two tiles, or perhaps if you were moving or something like that, this would, stop you from being killed. If you've ever used the waterfill mod, or I think there's several of them actually, it's very easy to place water under yourself, particularly when you're just building away and you're just clicking away. You put water underneath yourself and you die instantly. It's just literally no, swim animation, nothing like that. You're just dead, instantaneously. And this is how they're solving that problem, essentially, where you could accidentally build, they're not putting waterfill into the game, but if you're removing landfill, you're not going to remove it and, drown yourself, basically. Presumably, I'm guessing, does it matter? I'm presuming that if there were entities on here, it would mark them for deconstruction. So if you had an assembly machine here, or I guess probably more likely a reactor or something like that, if you were just, because you're using the Superforce building, at least I assume it's Superforce building, it's probably just, think about it, it's probably just normal building, normal deconstruction, etc. Presumably the normal one, it doesn't let you do anything. If you Superforce build it, Superforce deconstruct it, then it will just mark the thing for removal and mark the tiles underneath for removal as well. So you say if there's a reactor here, it marks it for deconstruction as well as the tiles underneath. And it's not really a comment, but it says that you can notice that the landfill underneath the player wasn't marked for deconstruction. In general, landfill can't be mined if there is something on top, but typically entities on top, machines, furnaces, belts, etc., will also be marked for deconstruction anyway, so they will be removed and allow the landfill to be mined. Yeah, so it's pretty much confirming what I was just wondering there. And with the new Superforce building, it is only natural that we make the interaction with landfill work in the opposite direction. This one's huge, actually. basically the player has filled in a load of landfill and then is putting in an offshore pump, so the water pump, and it's just taking out the landfill. Why this is huge is because actually if you use the waterfill mod, making the right size of hole for offshore pumps to fit into is a real pain. It's like really difficult to tell because it does this thing, you can see it here, where it jaggedy edges the water, which looks really good, but it means you often can't tell which bit's water and which bit's not, and how much space this has. So just to be able to, shift control click it down and it just sorts it out is just going to be amazing. These both put together make stamping down steam engine or reactor setups so much nicer and less worrisome. As always, superforce your thoughts to us at the usual places. Overall speculation, I don't really have anything to say. It's just going to be such another lovely, nice quality of life feature, and kind of explains on space platforms, just a little detail on space platforms really of, if you wanted to just leave it, because this is also, one of the things it's feeding into is this idea of automating the logistics. So if you build this bit of platform, or I guess the example they gave here, you build this, it builds the top one, but presumably you've not actually got the other three. So it adds them to a logistics queue for a rocket to send them up. So again, lovely, automated, integrated, just does what you need for it. And, sorts itself out basically, which is, it's one of the things with a lot of the overhaul mods. They're very intense, they require loads of ingredients, and when they try and add new mechanics, partly because they're doing it via mods, they tend to be clunky or difficult or, complex to actually do. And of course, the devs, Ruby itself can simply change the code, they can make it so that it can do these automated things. And it's how they're balancing. There's always a risk when you've got a game that's already as complex as, and detailed and as much in it as Factorio, that you would make it too complex by adding this stuff in the expansion for a new player. Because you've always got to remember that, all right, the expansion is going to be played by a lot of people who've played the base game already, but it's bound to bring in new players, And if they're having to deal with all the complexity of vanilla and they turn on, they buy the expansion, you never know, we might, do some kind of discount on a double buy. I doubt it, but you buy both of them together, they load up the game with both the normal and SpaceX in it, Space Age in it, not SpaceX, and it's just too complicated and it turns them off and it just doesn't make sense. And that's one of the reasons I think we're getting quite a lot of these quality of life improvements. I mean, as well as just, Wooby being Wooby. But, if you take a lot of the pain out of it, then people can just play with the systems, not have to worry about, in order to build this, what's it building? Well, oh no, I put down landfill. Oh no, I can't do it. It, messes up my blueprint, for reactors or something, or even here, just expanding this bit of solar, just being able to do that, hold down shift control click, it builds it for you. It's just make everything so much easier and, more intuitive and easier for the new player that they can focus on learning all these systems and how everything works together, optimizing their builds, all that sort of stuff. And I say, this is also a very good example, the whole putting in the belts and having to manually sort of fix it, and that being annoying and just a bit tedious. It's the type of little detail that is kind of, I don't know about unique, but it's a real thing that comes from the devs like really playing and enjoying their own game. And it's not meant as a criticism of other devs, but it's more the sort of thing of, they play it through and they enjoy it, if you see what I mean, and it's their type of game. Generally, I'm sure there's, they like other types of games, etc., etc. But the point is, they want to enjoy playing their own game, and it's, and that's why they put these sorts of changes in, because, there's no need to introduce this, but it's obviously annoying when you're at, particularly, I think, this one here is a really good example when you're like, oh, I got to put a railway in, or, oh no, I need a roboport here, or, I haven't got any radar coverage. These are the tiny little things, and it's like the only place I can put it is there, and that means pulling out loads of belts and, just going, right, we'll just hold shift control click and it'll do it. It's just, perfect, really. Yeah, and as I say, the adding in the water pumps being able to just, stick a hole in landfill brilliant. I mean, one of the things that, if you think about it, it will let you prep, basically. You know, if you just want to landfill a lake because you know it's gonna be in the way, and then you come along later and you're like, right, well, I want to put in a reactor here instead. Previously, you would just have snookered yourself. You know, you wouldn't be able to dig out the landfill. As I've always said, the engineer is apparently unable to dig holes. Well, now the engineer can dig holes. But yeah, this just lets you put down your blueprint and it just, digs out the hole. And it's like super, super easy. So yeah, just amazing stuff, really. I hope you enjoyed today's Friday Facts video and might consider coming back for another one. If you want to chat about the latest Friday Facts, then you can find me live streaming Factorio every Saturday over my Twitch channel at Trismegistus. Thanks for watching. Cheers. It just tickled me.